Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jayme's Journal, where we talk about my journey to becoming a traditionally published author and book reviews on urban fantasy series and books that I am currently reading or have read in the past. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the emotional aspect of the publishing journey, because as I was setting up to record more podcast episodes and dealing with my website and my social media platforms and trying to get some time in to write book 2, I realized that this is a little bit stressful. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the emotional toll this takes on a person when you are really focusing on and trying to become a successfully published author. So when I started writing, I didn't realize what it would take to actually become published. It was a learn as you go kind of process for me. And I feel like as I went, I really picked up a lot of things on the fly. I had to figure out exactly how to write a novel in the first place. Once I had done that, I had to actually put my stuff out there to be critiqued by other people, and that was nerve-wracking. And then I had to put it out there to be critiqued by agents and publishers, and that's even more nerve-wracking because, the rejection can be a little bit heavy. And though I didn't receive a lot of rejection when it comes to my own work, I did receive some, and I feel like just that little bit that I did get was emotionally taxing. But I was lucky and I had success pretty early on. My second book that I wrote actually got picked up and signed with Fireside Publishing after its first draft, which is pretty rare. And I think that a lot of that I would attribute to the amount of work that I put into actually writing the second book, because that first book taught me a lot about how the process works and how to find more information to actually make my book more sellable and approachable to the audience that I'm trying to reach. And that's why I feel like the second book was a lot more successful. However, once I signed my publishing contract, and it is through a traditional publisher, so that means I get a lot of the perks that go along with that, like the fact that I don't have to worry about my book cover. I'm obviously part of that process, but it's not something that I'm going to have to pay for out of my pocket. And editing services, the publisher has an editor that they work with and a marketing budget. So they will be doing a lot of the marketing for me. But I didn't realize that no matter what traditional publishing company you go with, you are going to have to do a lot of marketing for yourself. And I don't think that I quite grasped how much of an undertaking that would be. Specifically because I wasn't prepared to just jump in. I didn't have a website up and ready to go. I didn't have content for that website up and ready to go. And all of my social media platforms, while I do manage those, and I did already have social media platforms for me as an author on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I didn't realize what it took to sort of grow your following and make sure that you're relevant as an author in the industry. So after I signed my contract, I think it really started to sink in when I was making my website that this was going to be a lot of work. And I am already a full-time educational sign language interpreter, which means that a lot of my time is taken up, doing my actual day job. And then I have 3 teenage boys and a husband and friends and family outside of all of this. And then all the craziness that's going on in the world right now. So I don't think that I quite grasped that it was going to be so much, on top of what I'm already doing. And then to have to continue writing. Again, I feel like when I did this whole writing thing, I thought, okay, I'm going to write the book and I'm going to get a publishing contract and that's it. I'm going to be done. But that's not the case. When you're setting up your website, I didn't even think about the fact that there are multiple pages, right? You go in there and you have your main landing page that is the stuff typically related to your book, which I don't have any of that on my website yet because my book isn't being published until next year. So I'm kind of keeping things under wraps because I want to really make it special for all of the people who are going to be reading it when it gets closer to that time. I don't want to build up all this hype about it. And then people be like, oh, well, I'm not going to get to read this book until next year. And that's why I decided that I will really spend a lot of time promoting other authors who are in the same genre as me, people who are writing the same types of things, so that you, as my readers, as my listeners, and as my friends and family, will understand the type of book that I'm writing and be excited for that. So setting up the website was a big undertaking, and then realizing the costs associated with it, because if you are going to have your own domain name and have a logo and have all of those, really focused, specialized kind of things for all of your different platforms, then it's going to cost some money, and that's all going to come out of your pocket. So that was a little bit stressful for me too. And then finding content that was specific to what I was going to have on my website that is relevant. So my blog, and that takes a lot of time to maintain too, coming up with topics to talk about and things that I feel like would be interesting that you would want to know about the publishing process. That's all stuff that I have to think about and maintain. And then there is the social media aspect, because social media followers are not just there. You don't just attract them all of a sudden. You have to really work at building your following. And I know for me, it's been a real struggle, mainly because I'm not really sure how to promote myself on social media. And I think that has been a really big downfall for me, because the social media aspect of it is where you're going to find a lot of the people that you're then going to direct to your website to sign up for things like your newsletter. Because I had no idea how important a newsletter was until I started this whole thing, and figuring out that your newsletter is really where you're going to be able to connect with people who are going to read your book on a personal level, and let them know when things like that are coming out, and let them know when you have specific content that is only available on your website, and that you are going to have that direct link to them. So building that newsletter list is vital, especially when you're trying to do this as a sort of profession. I think it's really important. And then knowing what to put in a newsletter, because that is not something that just naturally comes to people. I mean, I'm sitting here in front of a blank screen and I'm going, what in the world goes in a newsletter? How do you set this thing up? Is there a specific way that you're supposed to format it? Is there stuff that people want to see in particular when it comes to your newsletter? And how do you make them want to continue reading it? Because if you're sending out a newsletter to people and they're not even bothering to open it, then that's not really doing you any good. So the content that you're adding in there is really important. And the same goes for your social media platforms. The content that you're putting out there is really important. And you can't spend all day talking about your book, because that really turns people off. And you have to find a good balance between your life and your writing life and your business life to be able to make sure that people know you as a person and not just as an author who is trying to make people buy your book. Because really, it's not about that. Really, you want people to buy your book because they want to buy your book, and you want them to know you as a person, because then they trust you and they know that you're not just there to sell them something. You're there to have a connection with them, to befriend them, and let them know that you want to have that connection with them, that you value their opinion, and that you do want to hear from them, that you do want to know what their opinion is. So I think that's why I've really tried to, when I put things out, make sure that all of you know that it's important to me that you reach out to me and let me know what you think. Because I can't change anything if I don't know what you want. And I can't give you more specifics unless I know what exactly it is you're looking for. And that's why when I do get that feedback, I really focus on those things. Like my episode about outlines. I had a specific question about the types of outlines there are and the types of outlines I use. And so I felt like it was really important to emphasize that just because I'm using this type of thing doesn't mean that that's the only one there is. And that it's important to seek out those resources that will match what you're doing. Because not every writer is the same. And that means it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all type of thing. And the advice that I share and the things that I tell you are really sort of personal to me because that's the only thing I know. That's my personal experience. So when you're doing things like setting up a website and you're trying to find, the best platform for yourself, I know that there are a ton of different website platforms that you can use. And I specifically chose Wixsite because it was a free platform. And I decided that, because I'm unknown and I don't really have a big following, that I would start with something free. But really, it quickly snowballed, and I ended up doing the paid version just because then I got to have my own domain name, and it sounds more professional. It's more professional to say authorjaymephelps.com than to say Wixsite/author Jayme Phelps or whatever it is that you have to do when you're using the free version. So you have to think a lot about your branding and how you want to present yourself in a professional way to the community. And I think you have to consider if this is really what you want, because it is an undertaking. This is a lot of work. It's a lot of information, and it's a lot that you have to do, not just a little at a time, but on a daily basis. I mean, my publisher says that I should spend 30 minutes a day just on marketing. And that's on top of writing, and that's on top of making content for this podcast and spending time with my family and helping my kids and spending time with my husband, So I think that if you're thinking about becoming an author, if you're thinking about, I really want to be published and this is the path that I want to go down, I think that it's a good idea to sit down and really do some research about what is involved in that. Because had I known what it takes to become a successfully published author, I think I would have started this process a lot sooner. I would have started setting up a website and developing content and scheduling stuff for your social media and making sure that you have new and fresh ideas. And that way you have more time to do the other stuff that goes along with it. The stuff that I think is even more important, the writing, because if you don't have a good story, then all of this stuff is for nothing. But all of this stuff is really important to actually being successful. So while they go hand in hand, I think that you have to sort of set up your platform and then do the work, or set up your platform and then, do the writing. So yeah, I just think that it's been kind of an emotional roller coaster these past couple of months. I signed my contract and I started the whole process of getting stuff edited and getting my book cover made and setting up all of my social media and my website. And now I'm sitting here going, okay, I think I need to take a minute to breathe because it's a little overwhelming. So that's my advice for today. I hope it wasn't too much or too deep. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, and I am more than happy to do an episode about whatever it is you want me to go more in depth about. And I love all of your feedback. So please make sure to reach out to me and follow me on my social media platforms. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Jayme Phelps Author, on Instagram, Jayme.Phelps_author, on my website, authorjaymephelps.com, and I will respond to your messages. I look forward to talking to you again soon on the next episode of Jayme's Journal.